Hello everybody, my name is Corey, without an E. Today I'm going to be watching a 7-year-old testify against his mother of murdering his sister. Let's get on into the video. The few disclaimers. My name / username will be changed in the future. And I will have to mute my mic every now and then because I have a camera mic. And I don't know if it's good, but I know it will echo pretty badly. So let's get on to the video. And I'll unmute myself whenever I want to talk. Again, let's get back into the video.
That's when I seen her. She was face down. She was very purple, very blue.
Oh God, her lips are purple. What do I do? Water's just coming out of her nose. Please hurry.
When a little girl drowned at her home, everyone thought it was an accident, until her 6-year-old brother came forward with a chilling tale of what really happened. But can he really be believed? Let's look into the controversial case of the mom who drowned her 7-year-old to punish her. Adriana Hutto was a 7-year-old girl who lived in the small town of Esto, Florida, with her mom, Amanda, and 6-year-old half-brother, AJ. She was diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, which meant that she always was hyper and active. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, is a neurodevelopment condition that is usually diagnosed in childhood and often lasts into adulthood. People with ADHD have trouble paying attention, controlling impulsive behavior, or being overly active. Her mom, Amanda, said in an interview that she had a hard time bonding and interacting with Adriana because she was always on the move, getting in trouble, and had even spent a week in a behavioral center. Her brother AJ, on the other hand, was the complete opposite. He was very quiet and calm and would sit in a corner playing happily by himself. When Adriana was only 6 months old, Amanda was called up for National Guard duty and had to leave the baby with her family for several months. And according to Amanda, this delayed the connection between her and her daughter, which, however, grew with time. Amanda also admitted that her temper was shorter with Adriana than it was with AJ. On August 8th, 2007, Amanda, who was at the time working as a nursing assistant, came home from her night shift and decided to catch some sleep before starting the day. She left the kids watching cartoons in the living room and went to bed. After a while, the children wanted to go out and play, and since they had a 4-foot above-ground pool in the backyard, Amanda warned them not to go near it without her supervision. To keep the kids from ever playing in the pool unsupervised, Amanda usually kept the pool ladder locked up in a shed. On this particular day, Amanda said that she was in the house getting ready to go shopping for school supplies when AJ came running in and told her that Adriana was in the pool. Amanda figured that Adriana was playing near the pool and told AJ to go and tell her to come back inside the house. Amanda reported that AJ went back outside, and after a while she went out to check what was taking them so long. And that's when she saw AJ by the pool trying to pull his sister out of the water.
He was raking in the water with his hand, like he was trying to grab her. I ran out the house. When I got to the pool, that's when I seen her. She was face down. She was very purple, very blue.
Amanda said she tried performing CPR on her daughter while also calling 911 for an ambulance.
I need an ambulance.
What's wrong, ma'am?
My daughter fell in the pool and she's not breathing.
And she's not breathing? How old is she?
She's 7 years old.
All right, hang on just a second, ma'am.
Oh God, her lips are purple. What do I do? Water's just coming out of her nose. Please hurry.
The emergency services arrived soon after, and Adriana was airlifted to a nearby hospital where the doctors tried everything to save her, but sadly she passed away. Now, here's where things get a little confusing. The doctor who worked on Adriana said that she went and told Amanda about Adriana's condition, and all Amanda would ask was, "Where's the vending machine?" And even after finding out that her daughter was dead, Amanda demonstrated zero emotion. However, in an interview with ABC News, Amanda said that she was completely shocked when she learned that her daughter had died.
Very much in shock. I literally got sick on my stomach. I brushed her hair, I kissed her, I hugged her, I touched her because I knew that it'd be the last time.
During an investigation, police found
Okay, that's a big flag. She's lying. Like, what the hell? Like, what's the point of lying when you know you did it? I don't make sense whatsoever. What I'm trying to say is, she lied for what? Because doctors hear and see too. The doctor said you had no remorse for your daughter. But when you have several cameras on you, you now show remorse. Like, that's not even funny. Your daughter died. Or you killed her. Each one of the two, you're still going to jail. Like, she is still going to jail. Let's get back to it.
a wagon filled with water next to the pool and a little pan floating inside the pool. They figured that Adriana brought the wagon there so that she could try to reach inside the pool and clean out some bugs using the pans. But then she reached out too far and accidentally slipped and hit her head. This seemed like the most logical explanation since it was something that kids would most likely do, especially if they suffered from hyperactivity like Adriana. To everyone, this was just a tragic accident. But was it really? While Adriana was still in the hospital, her brother AJ was staying with his grandparents and telling a completely disturbing story. The story was so concerning that his grandparents decided to take him to the police station to make a statement. At the police station, the little boy said that his mother killed his sister because she was being naughty. He claimed that Adriana had sprayed window cleaner in the living room over the TV and that their mother got angry and dunked her in the pool to punish her. He even demonstrated how he had seen his mother drowning his sister in the pool.
Adriana was like this and I'm holding her over. She went scream.
Oh, I feel bad for that little kid. I think I went through the hardest time. No, that kid went through the hardest time ever. Just imagine seeing your mother drowning your sister and there's nothing you can do. I just feel bad for him, man. That must have sucked.
AJ was interviewed twice that day by investigators and a child expert, and both times his story remained the same. Adriana had been dunked by his mother as a punishment for being naughty.
Who threw her in the pool? My mama. Mama threw who in the pool? My sister. And then what happened when she threw her in the pool? She started holding her face.
However, as the interview progressed, AJ's story started to get a little confusing and contradicting.
Started screaming, so I went, pow, 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 with my gun. So Mom said, stop it! So I did stop it, so AJ screamed, AJ, AJ!
At some point, he claimed that his mother had sent Adriana in the park and then followed her there and dunked her in the water several times. At another point, he said that he didn't even see the crime happen. When Amanda heard about AJ's claims, she said that AJ had a big imagination and that he made the whole story up. Some people also believe that AJ's story was made up, and guys, I know that kids are capable of doing that, but why would AJ lie about something like that? While AJ did exaggerate some parts of his story, the main part remained the same, that his mom dunked his sister. Amanda was asked to take a polygraph test to determine if she was lying, and the test actually showed that she was telling the truth. So, who should we believe? During the investigation, police found that Amanda was not the dedicated mother that she portrayed herself to be. In fact, many witnesses said that the kids were mostly neglected and would sometimes go without food. An inspection of the house corroborated with these statements, as it was found to be a filthy mess and reeked of urine. The officers were also surprised to find that there were no toys in the house, despite the fact that a 6- and 7-year-old lived there. When they asked Amanda about it, she claimed that she had taken away the toys and stored them in the shed to punish the kids for something. But then when officers checked the shed, they didn't find any toys there. Investigators also learned of the troubling relationship between Amanda and Adriana, who she would always lash out at for wetting the bed. Amanda's co-workers at the nursing home also told the police of an incident 3 months before the drowning, where Amanda had spoken of killing her daughter after she vandalized her car by writing "loser" with permanent marker in the interior. And in yet another troubling development, it was revealed that Amanda actually had another child who died in mysterious circumstances. Amanda, who was 17 at the time, said that she found the toddler on the floor, not breathing or moving. The cause of death was ruled out as a startling seizure. But now, with another child in her care dying mysteriously, people were starting to think that there was more to the story. A month after the incident, Amanda was arrested and charged with first-degree homicide. She was offered a plea deal that would have required her to plead guilty to manslaughter and get a 10-year sentence. This would have also saved AJ from having to testify against his own mother, but Amanda rejected the plea deal and chose to go to trial. The case went to trial in February 2008, and AJ was brought out as the main witness, despite the defense's argument that he was unreliable since he had changed his statement multiple times. And I've got to warn you guys, this is really painful to watch. At first, AJ did not even recognize his own mother, who was seated right in front of him in the courtroom, and so he appeared relaxed and calm as he answered the questions.
Courtroom here today. Would that be the truth?
So,
That would not be the truth. Why is that? Because she's not in the courtroom? Where is your mother?
jail.
She's in jail.
But then, when the prosecutor revealed to him that his mother was actually in the courtroom, the little boy just broke down in tears. Totally heartbreaking, right? Later, the prosecution showed AJ some drawings that he had drawn earlier depicting his mother drowning his sister.
Right here. Who is this? What is this?
My mama.
And what does she do?
With my sister.
How is she doing that, AJ?
Put her hand over my face.
AJ was able to keep the main story for the most part, but then he veered off and started saying things that didn't make sense. At one point, he even said that Adriana was actually fishing bugs out of the pool. But keep in mind that he was just 6 years old when he witnessed the most traumatic experience in his life. So he probably blocked out certain parts of the incident. Also, the trial took place several months after the incident, which for a 6-year-old is quite a long time to remember everything that happened. The prosecution brought in several other witnesses, including family members who testified that Adriana was completely terrified of water and therefore would not have gone inside the pool by herself for any reason. Amanda's co-workers also testified about Amanda saying she wanted to kill Adriana.
Very upset, very irate, and he said, "What's wrong, Amanda?" She said, "I'm just gonna kill her." And I was like, "Don't say that."
But the thing that sealed Amanda's fate were the bruises found on Adriana's face that looked like handprints and collaborated with AJ's statement that his mother had held Adriana's face as she continuously dunked her in the water. The prosecution argued that Adriana's drowning was actually a punishment that went way too far. They pointed out that the size of the pool was only 32 by 35 inches deep, while Adriana was 47 inches tall, so if in fact she did fall in by accident, all she needed to do was stand up. After 4 days of trial, the jury only took 2 hours to deliberate and come back with a guilty verdict. Amanda was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Amanda
She got what she deserved. She got what she deserved, too. Like, what's the fucking point, dude? They're children. She has ADHD. What do you expect her to do? I have ADHD, but there's no reason to fucking drown your daughter. Like, I get we're a bunch, but not enough to kill us. If she would have lived, she would have grown up something good, like a doctor or a police officer. Someone good. She probably went to the moon or space. Us ADHD people, we ain't that bad. Plus, we make cool stuff, we do cool stuff, and we're really smart. Well, I can't say I'm smart, but yeah. Like, it's really dumb to kill your daughter. There's no reason.
who still maintained that she was innocent, appealed her case in 2010, but it was unsuccessful, and she's still serving time at the Lowell Correctional Institution. She said in an interview that she has not seen her son since that day in court, and when he smiled and waved at her. AJ was adopted by the same family that took care of him when Amanda was arrested, and is now living in a loving and supportive household. What do you think about this case? Did Amanda really care?
That is fucked. Excuse my language. I'm gonna find another video. I'm gonna do this every Monday. Watch videos like these. I think tomorrow I'm gonna do a stream of T-Mod Lore, Fargo's Eternity mod. So yeah. It only took me a couple of seconds to find a video. So this is a 13-year-old boy my age that survived the famous Bone Breaker killer. What the hell? So let's get into it.
What did your foot look like?
Backwards. Let's go call. Yes. If he's kidnapped, he's in the house on Highway U. Both his legs are broken and his ankle. Here, Joel, come sorry about that. He says, no, just get me out of here as soon as you can.
This is 13-year-old Thaddeus Phillips. He and his family had just moved to Baraboo, Wisconsin. It was a small, safe town where families could leave their doors open on warm summer nights. Or so they thought. Thad went through a living hell throughout a weekend in July 1995. When officers found him, he was 2 hours away from death. It was simply shocking he had survived so long. What helped Thad keep his will to live? How did he manage to escape the House of Horrors? And who was the monster behind it all? We'll explore these questions and many more in today's video. But be warned, some very graphic details ahead. On July 14th, 1995, Thaddeus Phillips, his parents, Connie and Donald, and his sister arrived in Baraboo, Wisconsin. It was going to be a peaceful life, the family thought. The kids could play outside and make friends in this community of young families and young teens. So 2 weeks later, the Phillips were enjoying a hot summer evening by watching a TV show. All 4 of them. Thad and his sister fell asleep on the sofa, and their parents let them rest as they went into a different room. A few hours later, Thad was picked up and carried away. Half asleep, he assumed it was his dad carrying him into his bedroom.
And I opened up my eyes a little bit, and
I'm being carried through my den in our new house, and it's nothing really new to me because my mom and dad carried me to bed when I'd fall asleep before.
But Thad was being carried outside, then into another house. When he opened his eyes a minute later, he was outside the home of one of his neighbors. A large teenage boy put him down and told him to follow him inside. If he would have been any older, Thad thinks he would have made a run for it. But the boy was just a few years older than him, albeit several feet and pounds larger. So, as if through a trance, Thad just followed him indoors.
I don't know how to explain that. I can't explain that. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know why.
The boy seemed to be home alone, but his home looked like any teenager's home. A bit messy, but filled with posters, car models, and snacks. Also, the boy just seemed like he wanted a friend.
Being the nicest guy in the world. Talking about models and baseball cards and football cards, and that's what I was into at the time.
Half a mile away from Thad's home, this boy introduced himself as Joe and told Thad he was getting ready to throw a party.
Hold on. That guy looks like the person that killed Gypsy's mom. If you don't know who Gypsy Rose is, how do you not know who she is? Anyways, look her up. It's a terrible, terrible thing. Let's get back to it.
Said the names of a few other boys who Thad already knew. Knowing they would soon be at Joe's house too, Thad even got a little excited. However, Joe asked Thad if he wanted to see his card collection upstairs. Thad followed and everything changed.
We were sitting on his bed. He was sitting next to me. And just all of a sudden he stood up.
Joe grabbed Thad with all his might and threw him on the bed again. Then he grabbed his right foot and twisted it backward. Thad was in a state of shock. He was barely coming to terms with what had just happened, but he was very much aware that he needed to get home. So as Joe pulled back and started mumbling to himself, Thad ran downstairs and headed toward the front door. At this point, he felt more shock than pain and didn't realize he wouldn't get very far with a broken ankle.
Kind of looked away, and as soon as he looked away, I got up and ran as fast as I could down the stairs. Can't run very fast with a broken ankle. But I got down the stairs and through his living room into the kitchen before he finally caught up to me and got behind me and put me in a hole, dragged me back into his living room.
Joe broke Thad's femur and hip bone, and poor Thad passed out. When he woke up again, Joe was sitting next to him on the couch. Now, he wanted to be friends again. Thad was scared and confused. He asked Joe why he would do something like this to him. It wasn't personal, Joe explained. He just really liked breaking bones.
He enjoyed breaking bones. He enjoyed the sound of breaking bones.
He talked as if he had no choice but to snatch kids from their homes and subject them to this. He showed no empathy toward Thad, and he didn't feel his pain. He was his toy now. Joe told Thad to get some sleep. But how could you sleep through the pain of a broken hip? Also, Thad was not your average 13-year-old kid. He never wallowed in his pain. His only thought was survival.
Thad is a pretty straightforward kid, and he didn't want to die. So he was willing to do what it would take.
So, as Joe was not around, Thad began studying every corner of the house that he could see from the sofa. He was looking for weapons, phones, and anything that could help him escape. Apart from moldy leftovers and piles of dirty clothes, though, there was nothing in sight. Then, he tried to get off the couch, and only then did the pain truly kick in. Shivers went through his body as he was left paralyzed with unspeakable pain for the entirety of the night, while Joe slept upstairs. Thad didn't sleep for 1 second. One part of him hoped that the terror was over.
A little bit of me maybe thought that maybe he was going to let me go that next morning, but that was never his intention. I was pretty much sure there was people like that in the world. I just didn't think they'd live half a mile away from me.
Yeah, that's a really disturbing thought. The next morning, Thad asked Joe if he could call his parents. To his surprise, Joe said sure and even handed him the phone. As Thad dialed their number and held the phone close to his ear, expecting it to ring, he heard Joe laughing in the background. He'd cut off the cord. If you thought Joe couldn't get more evil, But Thad was so intent on surviving the ordeal that he didn't even express his anger. He acted as if Joe's so-called joke was funny and tried to befriend him.
That's exactly what I was trying to do, is to talk to him, maybe kind of be friends with him so he wouldn't want to hurt me no more. I was just hoping to hear a knock on the door, and it'd be my dad at the door, but that never happened.
For 2 hours, they watched TV together. Then, just as the day before, Joe stood up and looked at Thad with a manic, enraged look. He picked him up and carried him upstairs. Then he did to his left leg what he'd done to his right one before. Thad felt adrenaline before anything, so he got up and fought back.
Punched him in the back, and he turned around and put a pillow over my face and told me that if I didn't stop fighting, he's gonna break my back or my neck.
So, from that point on, Thad didn't fight back anymore. He decided to do what he was told, and he kept thinking of ways to escape that place. After shattering both his legs to pieces, Joe then sat down next to Thad. Just as he'd presented his baseball card collection, he now wanted to show Thad another collection. He had leg braces, bandages, and piles of white socks stuffed in his drawers. He explained that he loved fixing bones after breaking them.
There was some childlike almost fascination with making him right, so then he could just, again, continue to do torture. He had that, forgive the term, captive audience for as long as he wanted. He had that, as in making him dysfunctional again.
So Joe put Thad in the leg braces and wrapped several socks around his feet, spending minutes with each sock, obsessing over it being perfect. Imagine how disturbing this must have been for poor Thad. Throughout the day, Joe switched between fixing and hurting Thad. In the evening, he announced he'd be going out and left Thad on his bed upstairs. But before Joe left, Thad heard him speaking to someone downstairs. He listened closely. Was someone else inside the home, or was Joe on the phone? He was on the phone. This meant that there was another phone in the house, apart from the one with the cut cord. This was his only chance at freedom. Joe knew it was risky to leave Thad home alone, but he had a plan.
Before he left Saturday night, he made sure that he busted me up pretty good so that I wouldn't try to leave.
However, Joe never suspected just how intent Thad was on surviving. When he heard the front door close behind Joe, Thad began his plan. He crawled out of bed and dragged his body up the staircase. His legs weren't working. His only hope were his two hurting arms. When he tried to slide down the stairs with his legs first, Thad passed out from pain. So, when he woke up, he realized there was only one way to do it.
Myself down the stairs, and I dragged myself in the living room. And this took, I don't know how many hours it took, but I kept passing in and out.
It's impossible to imagine such pain if you've never been through it. Thad made it to the kitchen doorway when Joe returned home with his girlfriend.
Think and be smart, don't make him mad.
Shoot, I know the pain, dude. Well, not all over my body. I got hit by a car that was going like, I believe 30 miles an hour. It was a hit and run. I was like, what the heck, lady? And then I had a lot of adrenaline, and I was walking to my bus, and then that motherfucker went off. That bus driver didn't even wait for me, and he saw me get hit by a car. Let's get back into it.
So I'm laying there and I'm listening and I'm being quiet as hell.
Poor Thad was paralyzed with pain and fear, hidden behind the door, all the while listening to Joe flirt and smooch with a girl. After the girl left, Joe found Thad hiding behind the doorway. If things could get any worse for Thad, they did that night. You might be thinking, at this point, Thad has been missing for 24 hours. Wasn't anyone looking for him? Yes, they were. As soon as Thad was gone, his parents realized someone had taken him, or at least convinced him to go out with them. Connie and Donald got into their car and started driving through the town. Then they exited the town and drove around it, hoping to see their son or at least a clue pointing them to him. Ironically, they never thought to check door to door down their street.
We drove around and looked around. We went out to the river. And I searched the fairgrounds, just never thought to check house to house, because we didn't know any of the neighbors right close, so if I would have, I would have probably found him before he was hurt as bad as he was.
On Saturday evening, Connie and Donald filed a missing person report. The officers visited the Phillips home and looked for evidence of foul play. They found nothing, so they just told the family to stay close to the phone in case they made any breakthroughs.
Just couldn't believe what was going on, what was going on. I didn't know what to think. I just wanted to hear from him.
The next morning, Joe woke Thad up with promises of punishment for trying to escape the night before.
He's jumping on my legs with his knees, and I was just trying to talk to him to keep him away from me.
One of Thad's questions for Joe that day is if he'd done this to anyone before. Joe was convinced Thad would die that weekend, so he proudly confessed that he'd taken the lives of a few boys before. This was in line with an ongoing investigation at the time. In July 1994, 1 year prior, a 14-year-old boy named Chris Steiner went missing. He'd gone to bed early on the 4th of July weekend. His dad saw him asleep and closed his bedroom door. But just an hour or two later, someone took him from his bed. The following morning, Chris's parents called 911, realizing he was nowhere in or around the house. The officers noted that the usually locked patio door was open, and Chris's window screen was cut up. The muddy footprints in their yard were larger than Chris's too. Clearly, this was an abduction case. But for about a week, the detectives found nothing. On July 10th, however, tragic news reached Chris's family.
We found a body floating, partially submerged. It was immediately apparent that the body was in very poor condition. There was an advanced state of decomposition.
Dang, bro. This is really messed up. I can't believe people really do this. Just, what's the point? There's no point at all. No point to kill. Pretty much that's it. I don't know, but it's pretty messed up. Like, it's pretty messed up again. Let's get back into it.
Officers had to find Chris's killer fast and try their best to put the small town of 11,000 people at rest. But the only name that came up was obtained by Chris's parents after asking around Chris's school and their neighbors. The name was Joseph, or Joe, Clark, a local teenage bully. He was violent and had a knack for targeting younger teenage boys. But this wasn't enough for the officers to arrest him.
All hearsay, nobody could give me something that directly stated that, yeah, they heard from Joe Clark directly that this is what he said.
So the case went cold. By now, Thad heard Joe say he'd taken Chris's life. Joe was proud of his previous deeds, and he was excited to take Thad's life soon too. But Joe was also waiting for his girlfriend to come over that night, and Thad knew this. So as Joe was trying to attack him some more, Thad stalled by claiming he could hear the girlfriend.
I'd say, oh, I can hear something.
Eventually, Joe's girlfriend did come, so Joe locked Thad inside a closet. At this point, all the shattered bones in Thad's legs were causing internal bleeding to build up. Within hours, he could be gone. As the pain got worse and worse, Thad realized death was imminent, and this would be his last chance as survival. So he looked around the closet and found an old electric guitar. With whatever power he had left, he smashed the guitar through the closet door.
Busted a panel off the door and was able to unlock it.
Thad crawled down the hallway and threw himself down the stairs, passing out repeatedly, but refusing to give up. Finally, he made it to the kitchen where he found the phone on the wall. He tugged its cord and the phone fell down. Luckily, the buttons were on the phone, and Thad dialed 911.
He was so calm and collected that I felt he was playing a prank.
Better not be a joke. I'm sorry to that guy. He said, no, just get me out of here as soon as you can.
Here, it's me.
Were on the phone, and Thad dialed 911, refusing to give up. Finally,
panel off the door and was able to unlock it.
Thad crawled down the hallway and threw himself down the stairs, passing out repeatedly, but refusing to give up. Finally, he made it to the kitchen where he found the phone on the wall. He tugged its cord and the phone fell down. Luckily, the buttons were on the phone, and Thad dialed 911.
He was so calm and collected that I felt he was playing a prank.
Better not be a joke. I'm sorry to that. He said, no, he said, just get me out of here as soon as you can.
We're here. It's me.
I can't believe the kid busted out of there. Can't believe he's still alive.
When the officers found Thad, almost every bone in his body was broken. He was swollen and his skin was violet. The paramedics concluded he had 1 or 2 hours left to live if he didn't get to the phone that night. Thad was a superhero through and through. The minute his parents met him in the hospital room, he told them he wasn't the first victim. They had to convict Joe for every life he'd taken. At last, Joe was officially connected to Chris Steiner's death, and possibly other victims too. Thad's only wish was to get well soon so he could testify against Joe.
And what did your foot look like?
Backwards.
Joe just stood there with a dumb look on his face. His attorney went for an insanity defense and claimed Joe didn't remember anything, but he wouldn't get away with it. The prosecutor pulled out Joe's dirty school book from the evidence bag and read aloud.
There were 3 sheets of paper. There were 3 lists. One was called Get to Know. One was called Can Wait. And one was called Leg Thing. There were lists of boys on each of those.
Joe wanted to make a career out of this. Around this time, he earned the chilling nickname Bone Breaker. He was sentenced to life plus 100 years in prison, and Thad testified in both his trial and the trial of Chris Steiner. Shockingly, just before Chris's trial, Thad was shot twice by 15-year-old Michael Hubish, a friend and neighbor of Joe's. Again, Thad survived, and he carried on with Chris's trial. People like Thad are rare. His will to live was almost supernatural, and it was...
Yeah, we're gonna do one more video. My stupid little brother's in here, so yeah.
This picture hides the most disturbing secret. It was taken on November 8th, 1977, at Mira Loma High School. 700 people are gathered to learn about the most dangerous man in Sacramento, who has already attacked 27 people. But what these people don't know is that the police believe the killer is somewhere in this picture. November 3rd, 1976, 1 year earlier, another town hall gathering takes place at Del Deo High School. A man stands up in the crowd, claiming he would kill the predator if he ever came to his house. A few months later, this man is attacked with his wife inside his home. The entire community of Sacramento lives in fear, not knowing when or where the killer will strike next. However, one young girl becomes obsessed with the case, learning everything she can about the attacks. On October 29, 1976, 13-year-old Margaret Wardlow will become the youngest victim of the East Area rapist, and her knowledge of the case will save her life.
After last night's attack, there's something new to worry about: their children.
A 29-year-old wife was raped while her tied-up husband had to lift her.
Citizens began buying everything they could think of to protect themselves.
If I had a gun, I definitely would shoot him, and I would not shoot to injure. I would shoot to take care of him.
I have a gun, but I still don't feel safe being, at home alone.
Holy shit. A whole entire state started buying guns just for this one guy. Jesus Christ. I don't know how serious you have to be. You know how bad you have to be. A whole entire city started buying guns because of this one guy. Or 3 people. Jesus, let's get back into it.
The year is 1976. In the city of Carmichael, California, just outside of Sacramento, 15-year-old Chris Pedretti lives a happy life with her parents and her older sister. She spends her days free of care in one of the safest neighborhoods in the state.
I was 15. I was a kid, just a normal kid, cartwheels in the front yard, and really not a care in the world. It was not ever even a thought that our world might be unsafe.
For now, she's still unaware that, since the month of June, there's been a growing number of attacks in her area, women being assaulted inside their own homes. October 5th, only 3 miles away from Chris's house, a woman named Jane Carson is at home with her 3-year-old son, while her husband is away at work.
It was about 6:30 in the morning. My 3-year-old son hopped in bed with me for a snuggle. I heard the garage door close and I knew my husband had just left for work. I saw a flashlight shining down the hall and I thought, now that's odd, and I screamed out to my husband, "What have you forgotten?" There was no answer.
The bedroom door opens. A man, wearing a ski mask and holding a butcher knife, walks towards them, blinding them with the flashlight.
So I said, "Take our money, take whatever you want." And the minute I started to say something, he would say in his clenched teeth, "Shut up or I will kill you."
The man proceeds to tie up both Jane and her son by the wrists and ankles with shoelaces. Then he gags and blindfolds them both. After ransacking the house, the man forces himself on Jane and spends the next few hours taunting her and her child. When the police are called to the scene, the man is long gone. Carol Daly is the detective put on Jane's case by the sheriff's department.
Maybe something that the man said, or something that he did to you, or something that you recall hearing.
He was a pro at making sure nobody was going to know who he was. My hands were tied and I was blindfolded and my child was with me. It was absolutely an obsession to be able to find out who this rapist was. Everybody was a suspect.
Why the police can't catch the rapist and worried about their own homes being violated.
They call him the East Area Rapist. He hits homes in the same streets, same neighborhoods, sometimes just a few houses away from a previous victim. No one in Sacramento feels safe, but 15-year-old Chris Pedretti has no idea.
I certainly...
How many women did he get pregnant? Let's get back into it.
I didn't read the newspaper and my parents didn't discuss it, so I didn't have any clue that there was danger in our community.
December 18th, 1976, only 2 months after.
Hold on, if they can't find the killer, and if he gets a girl pregnant, and they have that child, can't they just use the DNA of that child to find the guy? Big brain move. Let's get back into it.
After the attack on Jane Carson and her son, Chris is at home, alone.
That night, my parents went to a Christmas party. I went to play the piano. I heard a noise, and I stopped playing. I listened, and it was gone. And all of a sudden, there was a knife at my throat, and he pressed it hard and said, "Make a sound and I will kill you." I froze. The brain stopped thinking at that point. I mean, I just went straight into survival mode.
Chris is blindfolded and gagged. Her wrists are bound. The man forces her out to the backyard, where he cuts off her clothes and leaves her there. She can hear him inside the house, cussing and ransacking, and all she can do is wait.
At that age, I didn't know what I was waiting for. So then he came back and took me in through the house and into my parents' bedroom where he raped me. I didn't know about rape. I certainly didn't know about sex. What he did to me, what he took from me, I can't ever get it back.
Just like he did to all the victims before Chris, the man taunts her, taking his time, never leaving.
So I would just move my arm and he was right there. He was right, perched right next to me and told me, "Do that again. Today, it'll be your last day."
After more than an hour, Chris is exhausted, tired of being afraid. She doesn't care what happens to her anymore, but she can't continue to sit there and do nothing. She rubs her blindfold off and manages to get up with her hands tied. Thankfully, the man is gone. When the police arrive, Chris is taken to the sheriff's office for a physical exam and for further questioning. The 15-year-old girl is victim number 10.
We were told the next day from my dad to never talk about it. It was such a strong order. My sister and I talked about it for the first time when I was 58 years old.
The young victim now lives in constant fear. Every man she comes across in the
Damn! Wait, you should say 51 or 58.
The first time when I was 58 years old.
How fucking old is she? But anyways, can they use the nut that he busted to find the guy? To use the DNA, or did they not have that stuff back then? Just wondering.
The young victim now lives in constant fear. Every man she comes across in the street could very well be the man who assaulted her. She knows there's going to be another attack. It's no longer a matter of if, it's a matter of when. When the news channels cover the next victim's story, Chris watches in horror.
There was a news report.
He told the female victim in effect that if he saw anything in the newspapers or on television or heard on the radio, anything about this latest attack, he would kill 2 people tonight.
I knew I was going to be killed that night. And not I thought, I knew. My sister and I, we just stayed awake all night, waiting.
By late fall, when the East Area rapists began claiming 2 and 3 victims a month, citizens began buying everything they could think of to protect themselves.
Hardware stores didn't have locks on the shelves anymore. Guns were flying off the shelves.
March 8th, 1977, 3 months after Chris was assaulted, the count is up to 15 victims, but still, the cops have no leads. The man is highly efficient in leaving no trace behind. He has a strong understanding of the police's reaction time, and he knows how to evade detection.
He knew everything that needed to be known about law enforcement.
But his MO is always the same. In a news article, they describe that the East Area rapist has never hit a house with a man inside. Right after the article is published, the MO changes. March 18th, a couple becomes the target.
The 29-year-old wife was raped while her tied-up husband had to listen.
He raped a 29-year-old housewife near the Ignacio Valley Shopping Center at 5:30 this morning. Her husband was tied up nearby and had to listen.
After tying the couple up, he puts glassware and plates on the man's back, threatening him that if he moves, the man will hear him and kill his wife.
The sheriff decided that we would hold community forums. I had no idea there were going to be several hundred people that would show up.
If we have a gun, could we shoot him? Knowing what I know about this man, if I had a gun, I definitely would shoot him. And I would not shoot to injure, I would shoot to take care of him.
In one of those meetings, a man stood up and said that if he ever comes to my house, I'll kill him. That he would protect his wife, protect his family.
May 17th, only a few weeks after that town hall meeting, the man is attacked at his house with his wife. It is likely the East Area rapist was in that town meeting, disguised as a concerned citizen, and he took that outburst as a challenge.
I have a gun, but I still don't feel safe being, at home alone.
You're always looking over your left shoulder. Always. I was afraid. Is he going to come back? Is he still stalking me? Does he live down the street?
November 1977, on La Riviera Drive in Sacramento, 13-year-old Margaret Wardlow lives with her loving mother. She too is worried about the East Area rapist, but she's not like any average girl. She collects every piece of information she can put her hands on about this individual.
I was a reader of everything I could get my hands on that had to do with this individual. Like, what was making this guy tick? Why was he doing this?
He really got off on power and control through fear. The fear in his victims is how he really got pleasure, from what I could understand from everything I'd read.
My mom always said, she's too old, I was too young, we wouldn't be victims.
Although her mother is probably worried herself, her words reassure Margaret well enough. As the attacks become more and more violent, one thought troubles the investigators more than any other.
We knew he was ready to kill. We were afraid our next phone call was going to be to a homicide scene instead of a rape scene.
November 10th, 1977.
It was a school night. I was awoken about 2:30 in the morning with a flashlight in my face. I saw him in a mask, had my hands tied behind my back,
Alone in her room, Margaret is aware that her mother is also probably tied up. As she hears the man walk into the kitchen and rattle with plates, she understands what's about to happen.
I knew if he came into my room, he was gonna rape my mom. And if he went into my mom's room, he was gonna rape me. And he went into my mom's room. A calming voice inside of me that says, you know, you're gonna get raped, this is what's gonna happen, but you're gonna survive, you're gonna get through this, it's gonna be okay.
Well aware of what the man intends to do to her, she remembers one specific detail about him. He thrives off of fear. Margaret intends to use that against him.
I didn't want to show him I was scared. He asked in a very harsh whisper, like, do you want to die? Do you want me to kill your mother? I just told him, I don't care. That was my way of telling him, you mean nothing to me. I'm not afraid of you.
After last night's attack, there's something new to worry about. Their children.
Detective Carol Daly believes Margaret's defiance is what kept her alive.
Margaret was probably the strongest young victim I have ever talked to.
The count is now at 27.
And still, nobody even knows what he looks like. No one knows where or when he'll strike again.
There was no stone left unturned. After working 27 of those cases, there wasn't a night went by that I didn't close my eyes and think about what those victims went through.
It's October 1979. No one knows why.
Holy shit! 50 victims? Hold on. What the hell? What? $1977. 1977.
Find a match. He had never been convicted of a crime that qualified.
Coined before the coming of Richard Ramirez in
There was no stone left unturned. After working 27
into the kitchen and Margaret intends to use that against him.
I didn't want to me. I'm not afraid of you.
Margaret was probably the...
Now at 27.
And still, nobody even knows what he looks like.
One
no
year.
One knows where or when he'll strike. No one knows where he looks like. No one knows where or when.
Margaret was probably...
The count is now at 27.
27 in a year span.
And still, nobody...
Once the rampage has stopped.
2 years. $23 fucking victims. 2 years. He got 4 more of that in a yearly span. What is wrong with this guy? Let's get back into it. Jesus.
No one in Sacramento knows if it will last. Some victims know too well his reign of terror is not over yet. The predator has been calling victims for months, even years after their attack, taunting them on the phone. While Sacramento breathes a sigh of relief, a new terror emerges in the Los Angeles area. A serial killer is on the loose, killing couples inside their homes. No one connects the crimes to the East Area rapist because there's little information shared between counties. They now call him the original Night Stalker, a name coined before the coming of Richard Ramirez in 1984. December 30th, 1979, Dr. Robert Offerman and his girlfriend, Alexandra Manning, are murdered in Goleta. March 13, 1980, Lyman and Charlene Smith are killed in Ventura. August 19th, Keith and Patrice Harrington in Dana Point. February 5, 1981, Manuela Wattoon in Irvine. It's July 1981. A realtor walks into a home in Santa Barbara County and makes a grisly discovery. Sherry Domingo and Greg Sanchez are found dead. Sherry has been bound and bludgeoned. Greg has been shot and beaten. For 5 years, this becomes the last known attack from the original Night Stalker, until May 4th, 1986, when Janelle Cruz is found murdered, becoming the youngest victim of the serial killer. It's 1994, 8 years after the last attack.
I thought he was dead. And all these years, I just found a way to deny it.
Paul Holes, a cold case investigator, stumbles upon case files with the title East Area Rapist on them, a serial predator Holes has never even heard of. As he reads through huge stacks of evidence and papers referring back to 1979 in Sacramento, Detective Holes is hooked. With the coming of new DNA technology, he is hopeful that he can solve this case quickly. But his first real discovery happens in 2001. The samples collected in Sacramento match the ones from Los Angeles. Finally, Detective Holes can say with confidence that the original Night Stalker is in fact the same person as the East Area Rapist. But even with this new information, Detective Holes is unable to find a match.
He had never been convicted of a crime that qualified him to be compelled to give his DNA to be put into a database.
During his investigation, Detective Holes gets a call from an unexpected ally, Michelle McNamara, who has been investigating the case just as obsessively as he has. More than just an author, she has made it her goal to bring the predator to justice. She even coined the new moniker, the Golden State Killer.
The great tragedy of this case to me is that it's not better known, and frankly, it should be solved. I mean, it just should be.
Police consider her a part of the investigation due to her incredible instinct and valuable insights into the mind of the killer.
She thought she was getting real close to finding him.
I'm optimistic. I know that it sounds crazy to be optimistic, but I am.
After spending more than 6 years retracing the steps of a killer, Michelle is exhausted, and the obsession has taken its toll. April 21st, 2016, she passed away from an undiagnosed heart condition. 2 months after her death, a countrywide initiative is launched to hunt down the Golden State Killer. The killer has evaded police and FBI for over 40 years. If this case were to ever be solved, it needs to be now.
All the witnesses, all the original investigators, everybody's going to start passing away. It's now or never.
April 2018, Paul Holes gets a crazy idea. Upload the DNA taken from the Golden State Killer's crime scenes onto an ancestry website.
Within a day, I had the list of potential relatives to the Golden State Killer out of Genvich.
One name comes up, Joseph D'Angelo, a retired cop living in Citrus Heights, just outside of Sacramento, and only 7 miles away from where Chris was attacked. But in order to be sure, Paul Holes needs a sample from the actual suspect. After secretly watching D'Angelo for days, police take a used tissue from a garbage bin and test it for a definitive DNA match. It comes back positive.
There is no question that Joseph D'Angelo is the Golden State Killer.
Police in California believe they've cracked a 44-year-old serial murder case.
Law enforcement now identifying 72-year-old Joseph James D'Angelo as the Golden State Killer.
While looking into D'Angelo's background, it becomes clear why he was never caught. In 1973, he was hired as a cop in Exeter. He would then investigate his own crime scenes and destroy or even fabricate evidence. He thrived off the media attention and the fear he saw spreading in his community. It is likely D'Angelo was at many town hall gatherings, like the one in this picture, to relish in his own work.
The answer has always been in Sacramento.
I was in shock. 42 years later, all those things I had not dealt with, it was time to deal with them. Carol Daly was the first one to be here to support me. I don't know if I could have done that all by myself. I called my sister, and that is when I said, Mom and Dad aren't here. Robin, we can talk about this now.
The trial of the Golden State Killer is highly publicized. Everyone in the country is watching as the man who terrified the state for over a decade is finally brought to justice.
It's been thousands of hours of sleepless nights between investigators and the victims and the families and the community.
It's August 18th, 2020. As the trial comes to a close, victims are allowed to share a statement. The moments are charged with emotions, as one by one, they each read out their powerful message to DeAngelo himself.
In the early morning of July 17th, 1976, my life was changed forever. I was 15 years old.
He stole my innocence, my security.
DeAngelo, I want you to look at me, and I want you to remember what I have to say.
It was my one and only opportunity to face him.
Your secrets have been exposed. Your double life is over. You will forever be known as a repulsive coward who hid behind a mask of evil. It brings me great satisfaction to see you in your assigned orange jumpsuit, powerless and handcuffed in all aspects of your already miserable life.
August 21st. Because DeAngelo made a deal, he admits to 13 counts of murder and 13 counts of kidnapping with robbery.
Murder in the first degree, how do you plead?
Guilty. To take the death penalty off the table, he also admits to 160 uncharged crimes, including dozens of rapes.
Jane Doe 11, October 13th, 1978. You admit or deny, sir?
I admit. But before closing the trial, the survivors all get one last opportunity to humiliate the man who haunted their nightmares for over 4 decades.
It was when they read the comment when all of us just started laughing at him.
Jane Doe number 20 reported that he had a small penis, a fact that was consistently reported by the majority of the sexual assault victims.
If that did not bring him some humiliation.
What the fuck, dude? What? Bro. People in Sacramento, bro, they're fucking crazy. What the hell? That's messed up. Jesus, let's get back into the last 2 minutes.
I don't know what would. That is why we were laughing.
Mr. DeAngelo will spend the rest of his natural life and ultimately meet his death behind the walls of a state penitentiary.
I'm so glad it's over. I mean, it is such a relief to finally, after all this time, know that he's behind bars and that's where he belongs.
Oh, I was just so happy. I haven't been able to wipe the smile off my face.
I was able to face him. I could now begin to leave the dark part behind me and start moving towards the light. The survivors really created a network for each other.
Chris built a support group for other survivors. It became a network for families and friends.
Mostly what I would like people to take away from this is that they can be free and they can speak.
She says each person is kept in a cage created by trauma, but the key to open it is in their pocket.
We're so terrified to pick up the key and walk out that we remain in this self-imprisonment. The key is right there to open up this prison door. All you gotta do is use it.
Well, that would be the end of this video. An hour long. I'm gonna have to do a lot of editing. Great. So yeah, the end of this video. See ya.